Hi, folks. This is Miss Steinbeck. I'm one of the counselors at Jones, and I'm here today to talk to you about graduation requirements. It's super important to us as counselors that you folks have a sense of what classes you need in the different subject areas, what non-credit graduation requirements you need in order to get to graduation. This becomes really important as well as you start thinking about your classes that you want to pick for sophomore year, which you'll be doing with your counselor when you see them in freshman seminar, March 22nd and 23rd. So to start, let's talk about graduation requirements. When we talk about graduation requirements, we're thinking about credits in different subject areas, okay? So you earn a half credit for each semester of a class that you receive a passing grade in, okay? So at the end of your first semester of freshman year, if you took a full 7 classes and you got a passing grade in all of them, you will have earned 3.5 credits. So typically, most of our students will earn 3.5 credits each semester. The number of credits that folks need to graduate from CPS is 24. However, based on the number of classes that our students take, most of our Jones students will end up with about 28 credits by the time they graduate. So when we look at the breakdown of those credits, you can see here the different amounts of credits you need in the different subject areas. So credits can also translate to years. So for English, you need 4 credits or 4 years. For math, science, and social science, you need 3 credits or 3 years. For world language, you need 2 credits or 2 years, but it's important to note that these world language credits, the 2 years need to be in the same language. Okay, so if you started in Mandarin and then you take another year of Mandarin, so Mandarin 1 and then Mandarin 2, that will meet the requirement. If you take Mandarin 1 and then take French 1 your sophomore year, that does not meet the requirement. You would need to go on to take French 2 or Mandarin 2 in order to meet that 2-year language requirement. PE is kind of a tricky one because you are only required technically to take 2 credits, PE1 and PE2 for CPS. However, the Illinois state law actually mandates that students are enrolled in PE all 4 years of their high school experience. So your PE credit, the PE class that you take junior and senior year is counted as an elective. If you meet very specific requirements, you are eligible to waive out of PE junior and senior year, but those criteria are very specific to just a few students, and your counselor will tell you more about that. The fine art credits, you need 2 years of a fine art. This can be 2 years in the same kind of art concentration or 2 years across different concentrations. So you could take choir your freshman year and then choir again your sophomore year, and that would meet the requirement. You could take choir your freshman year and then take art 1 sophomore year, and that would meet the requirement, so on and so forth. You'll also need a credit of computer science, so 1 credit or 1 year. The computer science credit can also be waived if you meet very specific criteria, which your counselor will tell you about as well. And then this is not on this PowerPoint, but if you are a CTE student and you were enrolled into Jones through CTE, you will need to take all 4 years of your CTE course. Sometimes CTE students get worried about graduation requirements and how they can fit these things in. That's where things like a PE waiver or a computer science waiver will come in. Your counselor will give you more information about this, but if you've got questions about that, definitely set up time to meet with your counselor to kind of plan out your schedule for the next few years. And then finally, electives. So any class that does not fit into one of these graduation credit requirements is considered an elective. So as I mentioned before, you must enroll in PE junior and senior year unless you meet criteria for a waiver. But since you've already met the 2 credits for PE, that becomes an elective credit. Okay, the same goes for fine art. If you take more than 2 years of art, the 3rd year would be considered elective credit. For math, science, and social science, as well as world language, if you continue those courses past the required credits, then those are considered electives. One thing I do want to call your attention to is while these are the JC or the CPS graduation requirements, we do recommend that students are taking 4 credits in those core subject areas, so math, science, social science, and world language. Though only 3 are required for math, science, and social science, and only 2 for world language, we want students to have well-rounded schedules, and this can be especially helpful as you're thinking about your post-secondary plan and what you might like to do after college. So those are the credit-bearing graduation requirements. There are also non-credit graduation requirements, so different things that students must complete in order to graduate. A lot of these are a part of the classes that you'll be enrolled in anyway, but we just wanted you to be aware of all of them. So first is the service learning projects. You do not have to complete a certain number of service learning hours in order to graduate, okay? Instead, as part of your English 2 class and either civics or AP government, English 2, most folks will take sophomore year, civics and AP Gov, most folks will take junior year. And as part of the curriculum in those classes, you will do a project that will earn you the service learning project credit. So as long as you complete both of those projects, as long as you pass them, you will get the service learning projects completed. Consumer education and the Constitution test, these are both part of the curriculum in AP Gov or Civics junior year. So consumer education is really talking about financial literacy, and the Constitution test, you guessed it, is a test on your knowledge around the Constitution. Health is part of PE1, so either you took health first semester or you're taking health now. Driver's ed will be a quarter of PE2. All students will take driver's ed as part of PE2. If you take driver's ed on your own outside of school, if you get your permit early, you can work out with your PE teacher once you get to school sophomore year what your options will be for that quarter while the other classmates are in driver's ed. Just make sure you communicate with your PE teacher about what your options are, but all sophomores will take PE2. The SAT is also a graduation requirement. So in the spring of your junior year, typically April, you will need to take the SAT at Jones in order to meet these graduation requirements. And then these last 2 are really based around your senior year and your post-secondary plan. So the Learn, Plan, Succeed requirement is just basically that you will send proof of whatever it is you're doing once you graduate to your counselor, so your counselor can upload that on your behalf, okay? So if you're going to go to college, typically you'll send your financial aid award letter or your acceptance letter to your counselor. If you are doing one of the other post-secondary pathways, perhaps you're going into the military, you might send your counselor your enlistment letter or your enlistment contract. If you're going to do a gap year, maybe you will send your counselor the acceptance for the program that you're going into for your gap year, things like that. Basically, we'll just need proof of what you're doing once you graduate. And then the FAFSA completion is another senior year non-credit graduation requirement. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and that's an application for students to receive financial aid for college. So you will need to complete the FAFSA as part of your non-credit graduation requirements. That will be available to you in the fall of your senior year, typically starting in October. So those are your credit and non-credit graduation requirements. These are the things that you will need in order to graduate in June of 2024, even though it seems like a long way away. If you have questions about graduation requirements or if you want to make sure that you're meeting them, definitely reach out to your counselor with questions.